5 minutes past 12 local time, 5 minutes past 10 if you're in Central Europe, 5 minutes past 8 GMT. Hello everybody, wherever you are in the world watching us this morning, this afternoon. Welcome back to the Rustavi International Motor Park in Georgia. It's free practice 2 ahead of this weekend's opening pair of races in the 2017 TCR International Series. This is Mark James in the commentary box with you for this session, qualifying a little later on today and then the 2 races tomorrow. If you were with us for free practice 1 earlier on, you'll have seen a few surprises, a few new faces, a few new cars, colour schemes, teams, and we'll try and explain it all to you in the next half an hour or so as our second free practice session is due to get underway in about 4 minutes' time. This is where we are, the Rustavi International Motor Park, 4.14 kilometres. The track on the outskirts of the city of Rustavi, about 25 kilometres or so from the capital Tbilisi. And we're making history this weekend in that this is the first international motorsport event to be held in Georgia. Lots of excitement, lots of very important people around. A government minister was here to welcome us to Georgia on Thursday evening. Let's catch up with one of those new teams I mentioned. François Verbist from Come To You Racing is with Alfredo Filippo.
François Verbist, team manager of Come To You Racing, the new team in the TCR. It has been a very, very quick start of the season for you.
Yeah, of course. The decision has been done, I would say, not even 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. So with the travel to Georgia, was a bit tight to get everything in place. But we are happy to be here, and for sure we have let's say our famous driver in the car, which already won 2 times the championship. So we have a bit pressure on our shoulders, but I'm used to that. So let's see what's going on. But the car is new. We have to take our mark in the series to see how it goes, and hopefully we can score some points this weekend.
All the best then for this new adventure.
Alfredo talking there to François Verbist. There is their car, the sole Audi RS3 LMS TCR car. And there is the man who's won 2 TCR titles back-to-back. Stefano Camini won it with Target Competition in 2015, driving a Seat Leon. Won it with Leopard Racing last year in a Volkswagen Golf. Surprise, surprise, he carries car number 1, or the number 1 on his Audi. Jean-Carl Vernet carries number 2, Camini's teammate from last year, still with Leopard Racing in a Volkswagen, but the 2017 car. Then it's Roberto Colciago in one of the Hondas. Colciago, I was saying earlier, retired from racing and then came back to contest TCR Italy last year, which he won, and also won one of the rounds of TCR International at Sepang. Dare I say it, some other veteran racers also with us. Pierre-Yves Cottals from Belgium in one of the Opel Astras. And that man, Gianni Morbidelli, 49 years of age, the oldest driver in the TCR International Series, and the West Coast Racing team from Sweden, having made the switch from the Honda Civics, with which they contested the first 2 seasons of the TCR International Series. They've switched to the car that won the title last year, the driver's title anyway, the Volkswagen Golf, in the hope that it'll bring them better luck. And there is, at the other end of the experience scale, 16-year-old Giacomo Altoe, another Italian, and some impressive times, some impressive performances from him, telling me yesterday that he's in the TCR International Series to learn for the future, but what a teacher he has in Gianni Morbidelli. The car's then lining up in the pit lane to start this second half-hour free practice session. Lots of things being tried, lots of strategies and scenarios going on within the teams. The West Coast Racing guys there in the grey with their hands up, watching the green light at the end of the pit lane, which is just beneath me, as J.K. Vernet's car is just pushed out. The lights go green, and you hear the noise of 16 or thereabouts TCR cars take to this 4.1 kilometer circuit at Rustavi, led out by the two West Coast Racing Volkswagens. There are the three Seat Leon cars of Craft Bamboo Lukoil. Two drivers kept on from last year, Pepe Oriola and James Nash, runners-up in 2015 and 2016 in the Series 2 Camini, respectively. They're joined by a new driver for TCR International, Hugo Valente, coming to the series from the World Championship, very firmly believing this is where the future lies in terms of touring car racing. Car number 10 then, Gianni Morbidelli in the Volkswagen Golf, heading around the circuit, talking to Jean-Carl Vernet earlier, who of course campaigned the Golf last year, saying that the 2017 car is very different to the car he drove last year and much more difficult to set up, he was saying. So shrugging his shoulders, saying we're trying a few things in this session, but really the car new to us all. The big changes in terms of the Volkswagen to the aerodynamics. Another man who is struggling a little to get to grips with his new car is Camini. The Audi, very different, he was telling me, to the Volkswagen. The three-box design, the saloon, the sedan, if you prefer. The aerodynamics very different. The rear of the car working much harder, and it's a very different feeling for the driver. And so he was saying yesterday that he wasn't feeling 100%. Spoke to him earlier in between the two free practice sessions. He was saying no, he feels much better in himself, but knows that there's more to come from the cars. Now, three Alfa Romeos, the Giulietta TCR, run by a new team, GE Racing, which has evolved from the Mulsanne Racing team we saw last year. Some questions on social media came up after the first free practice session saying, where are the red Alfas we saw last year? Well, these are the same cars, repainted into white for their new team. And the three drivers, David Kajaya, local hero, in the number 16 car. The number 62 car you saw a moment ago, which was Dusan Borkovic, the giant of a man, having squeezed into the Alfa. And the third driver, the circuit owner actually here at Rustavi, Shota Abkazava, having won the Russian and Georgian Legend Championships, also won the AM class in the Blancpain Lamborghini Trofeo a couple of years ago, so no mean driver, but dropped into the car at very much the last minute. Knows the circuit intimately, of course, but still getting to grips with that car. So we're starting to see times coming in then. And in terms of lap times, we're looking at around 142, 143. There is Camini weaving behind Altoe. As Altoe and Camini dive into the pits for some changes after that first lap. So Morbidelli crosses the line, an unrepresentative 147. Valente, I mentioned earlier, the new guy at Craft Bamboo Lukoil, does a 144.428. That compares with our quickest time from free practice 1, which was a 141.85. There is Valente. And if you were to lay bets, not that I would advocate such a thing, of course, then the winner of the team's title last year, Craft Bamboo Lukoil, looked to be incredibly strong this year as they bid to defend that title. 3 titles up for grabs, incidentally. A new title introduced last year, so there's drivers. Stefano Camini won it last year. Teams, won by Craft Bamboo Lukoil. And also the model of the year, which is the car model. And it's all balanced out, so even though there are more Seat Leons than everybody else, it's on number of cars finishing and so forth, and it was the Seat Leon that won Model of the Year last year, but a much stronger field this year, much stronger entry list. So will it be the Volkswagen, the Honda, the Opel even, if they can get the car sorted, which I'm sure they will, or even the Audi? But of course, so far only the solitary Audi from Comini, but the team, Come To You Racing, hoping to add a second car from their home round at Spa-Francorchamps, which is the first of the European leg of the TCR International Series this year, as we're watching Jean-Carl Vernet. Vernet did a 1:44.223, but bettered by Valente. And I did say at the first session that Valente seemed to have a problem and only came out right at the end of the session and popped in a time that was 5th quickest. But the team telling me no, that they were using their time wisely. They had more than enough time to prepare, and so Valente was out bedding in brakes and so forth, and only did a couple of laps at the end of the session. More than happy with 5th. As you saw briefly there, our American driver in the car number 18, the Seat Leon TCR DSG of Icarus Motorsports. That's Duncan Indy from Los Angeles in California. Frustrated with the first session. I mean, all new to him. Touring car racing, front-wheel drive, a European style of racing, if you like. But I know that there are an awful lot of people in the States, California in particular, that are watching this stream. Hello to you. And Duncan facing a very steep learning curve compared to people like this guy, 20-year-old Ferenc Fiksha, quickest in testing yesterday, quickest in free practice one this morning, and he's in the Seat Leon, run by Zeller Racing from Austria, but he will switch to the Kia Ceed from Zengo Motorsport from Spa-Francorchamps onwards. So Valente slipping down the order. Kajaya now quickest with a 1:43.155. Colciago, Roberto Colciago, 1:43.607. Then it's Vernet, 1:43.621. Then Gianni Morbidelli, 1:43.725. So just half a second splitting those four at the top of the timesheets. But an awful lot of interest in David Kajaya. The hashtag #GoDataGo has been trending in Georgia for a while now. Big social media campaign to get behind him. And when there was a public autograph session and they drove some of the cars around the streets of Tbilisi on Thursday, 5 local TV stations were out. And the man that they wanted to talk to was this man, David Kajaya. Very, very confident. Really likes the Alfa Romeo. Did 4 races in TCR Middle East, going back over the last month or two. And the team, GE Racing, announced about 10 days or so ago, and they will have 3 cars here and in Bahrain at the next round with Kajaya's teammate Dusan Borkovic. So there is Morbidelli coming out of the, I was going to say slight haze, but it's not that warm. Morbidelli 5th quickest at the moment. His last lap, a 1:43.725. Green sectors in 1 and 2, so Morbidelli, in theory, will improve. Yes, he does. Goes up a place to 4th. That's a 1:43.265. So Morbidelli a second down on Kajaya, who's on a 1:52.154, having just set his quickest lap. Valente improving his times, 4th with a 1:42.995. Still early days in this session, still 2/3 of the session remaining. As Kajaya comes into the pits. Cortals goes up to 7th with a 1:43.601. Comini still languishing in 10th at the moment. And there is Matto Homola in the number 70 car, one of two Opel Astras run by DG Sport Competition from Belgium. And just as I say, Comini is languishing in 10th. He pops in a time that'll take him to 8th, a 1:43.7. So still a second and a half or so off David Kajaya's pace. But of course, we don't know what's happening with tyres and so forth. And ultimately, the drivers and teams still using this session as Tashi goes second quickest. 17-year-old Attila Tashi. Second fastest for him. And Tashi, a new car, a new team. Tashi in the Honda, run by Mira Motorsport out of Hungary. Venet goes second quickest, a 1:42.596. So still half a second, just under 0.4 of a second slower than Kajaya. That's Pilou, Pierre-Yves Cortals from Belgium. Now he was saying his season's program is not yet finalized as he comes into the pit lane. He's with TCR International for the first two rounds here in Georgia and in Bahrain, but the third round, his home event at Spa-Francorchamps, still not decided as yet. I'd be surprised if he wasn't there, but stranger things have happened. Green sectors then from Fixture and from Duncan Indy. Indy then 13th quickest out of 15. And only two of the Alphas out on track at the moment. So Indy with a 1:46.7. 4.6 seconds off, but then still early days, as I was saying. Fifth place changes hands. Ferenc Fixture goes fifth. Kajaya, though, still quickest at the moment. Then Jean-Carl Venet, then Tashi, then Colciago, Fixture, Valente, Nash, Morbidelli, Comini and Altoe. Cortals 11th, Borkovic 12th, Homola 13th, Indy 14th, and Pepe Oriola 15th at the moment. And just as I say, Pepe Oriola 15th, bang, there is fifth quickest for him. The 74 car with a 1:42.732. You have to say things are very laid back, very relaxed in the Craft Bamboo Lukoil garage. Having spoken to the team principal, Richard Coleman, and also the team manager, Andrew Chisholm, everything very laid back, business as usual for the team, which is no surprise. So green sectors are plenty then. Altoe, quickest of his times in sector 1. Fixture, quickest in both sectors 1 and 2. And Comini, his best sector times in 1 and 2 as well, and 3. So Comini goes 7th quickest. Let's see what Fixer and Altoe can do. As beneath me at the end of the pit lane, the two Opel Astras go out together. There is Fixer's car. Now that's turn 4, which caused a few problems earlier. We saw a couple of cars spinning at turn 4. As in comes Jean-Carl Venet. So that's the 74 car, that's Oriola. Oriola's still 5th at the moment, but nobody troubling David Kajaya. His best lap, a 1:42.154. Venet, about 2/10 slower, 1:42.415. several other drivers to break the 143 barrier. In fact, we go down to 10th place at Altoe until we see a 143. So 9/10 of a second covering the top 10 at the moment. And in comes Comini, despite setting his best sector times in 1 and 2. As we're into the second half of this half-hour session, in comes Comini. And as Francois Verbiste was saying at the beginning of the session, everything came together very late. The whole deal with Stefano, with the team, with the car. Altoe bouncing across the curbs at turn 4. If you've been with us for a while, you know that Comini always names his cars after a girl's name, a lady's name, and he forgot to do so this year, so went out to a fan vote on social media last night, and I noticed that the name Trinity is painted on the side of the Audi. So on behalf of Stefano, if you took part in that fan vote, thank you for coming up with the name. There were all sorts of suggestions, some cleaner than others, as you can imagine, but Trinity, it appears, got the fan vote. Indy improving. And there is Duncan Indy from California. This brand new team, Icarus Motorsports. Talking to his engineer, Brian, oh, just loose over the curbs. He'll be kicking himself for that. But he comes round turn 12 onto the start-finish straight. What can Indy do? Can he improve from 15th at the moment? And indeed, no, he gets to a 1:45.0, no, 1:45.09 in fact. But that's still nearly a second behind Mato Homola, who's in 14th. But Indy going the right way. Never having driven a front-wheel drive race car before, telling me earlier that it feels very much like driving a road car on a circuit. Very different driving style to what he's used to. And Fixer goes quickest. There he is, Ferenc Fixer in the Zeller Racing Seat Leon. Not a new car, but with new parts on. And if he can hold on for just under 12 minutes, that'll be the clean sweep so far. Quickest in testing, quickest in free practice. And Ferenc Fixer, the 20-year-old Hungarian in the number 55 Seat, currently quickest in free practice too. But Homola, a gold lozenge for him, which means quickest Sector 1 time of all. So Homola on a charge in the number 70 car, the DG Sport Competition Opel Astra. I mentioned social media earlier on. Very nearly 100,000 followers on Facebook for the TCR International Series. Remember the Twitter account as well, at TCR Intel, TCRINTL, to get all the latest news and to interact with the series. And I also noticed last night that Come To You Racing have a new Twitter account, and anybody that tweets with the hashtag Come To You will be displayed not only here in Rustavi, where they're competing with the Audi, but also at their base back in Belgium, and also where they're racing with the Volkswagen Cup. Homola then goes 5th quickest in the red and yellow colours of the number 70 car. Courtal's car a little more red, although I still suspect I'm going to struggle to tell the two apart. There was Courtal's very briefly. And that is Valente. 2 green sectors for him in 1 and 2. So Valente in currently 11th and leaps up, as I say that, to 6th with a 1:42.609. So things getting even tighter now. Just under 9/10 of a second covering the top 12. So from Fixer, who is currently quickest, right the way down to Cortals, who is 12th, 0.891 of a second splitting those 12. So there is Fixer, 2 gold lozenges, so that quickest time will improve. Currently on a 1:42.686. He did a 1:41.85 in free practice 1 this morning. Can he do that again? He comes up to the finish line to stop the clock. And indeed, just misses out. A 1:42.138 his best. That was a 1:42.167. So terrific consistency from Fixer. But he remains quickest. He'll be happy with that. So Fixer from Kajaya, from Oriola, Vernay, Homola, Valente now 6th. Tashi 7th, Colchiago 8th, Nash 9th, Altoe 10th, Cortals now 11th. Comini now 12th, Morbidelli 13th, and there's a gap between Comini and Morbidelli. Borkovic 14th, frustrated I'm sure, and Duncan Indy 15th. And we've not yet seen the third of the Alphas take to the track for this session. And Tashi now, gold lozenges. What can the 17-year-old do? First event in the Honda with the Sayats of B3 Racing last year, remember, comes round turn 12 and onto the start-finish straight. Boom, Attila Tashi, quickest of all, breaks the 1:42 barrier and, in fact, goes quickest of the two free practice sessions, excuse me, does a 1:41.516. So that's quicker than Fixer did in free practice 1 when he did a 1:41.850. So Tashi then, this 17-year-old sensation, goes quickest from Fixer, from Kajaya, Oriola, Vernay, Homola, Valente, Colchiago, Nash, and Altoe rounding off the top 10. And that blisteringly quick time on, I suspect, new tyres does really open things up. Things were really tight between the top 10, but now the top 6 covered by a second or so. 1.7 seconds covering the top 13. More green lozenges though. Vernay, his best Sector 1 and Sector 2 time as he comes round turn 12. Untidy though, onto the rumble strips. What has he done? He improves to 4th with a 1:42.163. Colchiago also improves, a 1:42.194. He's still 5th. Ooh, Tashi slightly loose. Back end getting slightly away from him. As he comes up to take the timing beam. No, indeed, a 1:42.02. So something like half a second off the quickest lap time. Down at the bottom end of the field, it's Duncan Indy still 15th, having improved to a 1:44.8. Still 3 seconds off the pace. Fixer improves. Kajaya 3rd, Vernay 4th, Colchiago 5th, but it's still Attila Tashi. As looking further down the order, 11th is now Gianni Morbidelli with a 1:42.850. Oh, that was Borkovic out of the car. Having spoken to the team after free practice 1, they were saying that they were trying different things because Dusan's new to the Alpha. They'd started off with similar, if not identical, settings between the two cars. Venet, second quickest, improving to a 1:42.064. Fixture also improved his time to a 1:42.097, now dropping to third behind Venet. But GE Force, excuse me, saying that they were trying to go different ways for this session to see if they could squeeze some more time out of Borkovic's car. As Indy, green lozenges for him in sectors 1 and 2. Morbidelli green in sectors 1 and 2. Indy improves to a 1:44.4. 6/10 slower than Borkovic, but slowly but surely improving. And indeed, Borkovic getting out of the car. And that was Kajaya that we saw getting out earlier on. Venet on a flyer. Green sector 1, gold sector 2. Currently, Jean-Carl Venet is second behind Tashi, as Altoe moves up to 9th. Giacomo Altoe, the 16-year-old Italian, teammate of Gianni Morbidelli. And Altoe, a 1:42.6. Actually beating Morbidelli, who's a 1:42.8, so 2/10 slower than Altoe. Let's watch Venet. His best lap time, a 1:41.67, so 1600ths or so off Attila Tashi's time. No, indeed. Not improving his sector 1 time. As Venet heads down towards the long left-hander at turn 8. Coming up to 2 minutes of the session remaining. Still quickest so far with a best lap time of 1:41.516 is Attila Tashi, car number 9, which is the Mira Motorsport Honda Civic. Second, just over a 1/10 of a second behind Jean-Carl Venet in the Leopard Racing Volkswagen Golf. Then it's the man who was quickest in testing and free practice 1, Ferenc Fixture. Then it's David Kajaya in the Alfa, 4th. Roberto Colciago, 5th. Pepe Oriola in 6th. Then it's the man you may just have heard doing a practice start just underneath the commentary box, Matteo Homola in the Opel Astra, 7th. Hugo Valente, 8th. Giacomo Altoe, 9th. James Nash, 10th. Valente, his quickest sector 1 time. That's Cortals heading away from the camera. And Tashi clearly not satisfied with being quickest, with only 40 seconds or so of the session remaining. That was Tashi making a practice start in the background. As it'll be interesting to see what Hugo Valente does. Valente at the moment is 8th with a best lap of 1:42.6. Roberto Colciago. And that's his engineer in the foreground, Giancarlo Bruno, probably one of the world's most experienced touring car engineers. And no, indeed, Valente blows that lap on the final sector, so Valente stays 8th. As the checkered flag falls, we're watching a slightly ragged Stefano Comini in the Audi RS3 LMS. And I don't have a timing screen, so I don't know whether Comini took the checkered flag. There is Morbidelli with the Comozzi sponsorship. And also, the way you can tell the two cars apart is the mirror colours. And again, it's Comini over the curbs, turn 4 into that double right-hander at turns 4 and 5. So Stefano still coming to terms with the Audi. But having already won the TCR International Series title at the wheel of two very different cars, can he make it a third title in a third different car and a third different team? And I think that was Comini heading up to take the timing beam. Indeed it was. He passes me on his in-lap. And indeed, Comini will be slightly unhappy with that. 1.4 seconds off the pace, 13th quickest Stefano Comini, having done 13 laps. To give you an idea of how that compares, Tashi's done 11, Venet's done 13, as has Fixture. Kajaya only did 8 laps in that session. Borkovic did 9. And there's Altoe. Okay. So as well as seeing the likes of Gianni Morbidelli, 49, and Roberto Colciago, 49 on Tuesday. The TCR International Series this year seeing a 16-year-old, Giacomo Altoe, a 17-year-old, who's not letting those around him bother him, Attila Tashi, quickest so far, and a 20-year-old, Ferenc Fixture, quickest in both testing and free practice 1. So a complete spread of ages and experience for this year. But there is the man that Alfredo Filippone will be talking to very shortly, Attila Tashi. I should explain if we have any Hungarian fans watching. I know very well that in Hungary he's known as Tashi Attila, but the team more than happy when I mentioned it to them yesterday to say, no, do it the European way rather than the Hungarian way. So it's Attila Tashi before I get any mentions or comments on social media. There is Tashi, one of only 2 drivers to break the 142 time barrier on this session. Tashi having done a 141.516. Jean-Carl Venet clearly much happier with the way that development's going. The setup on the new Volkswagen, a 141.676 for Jean-Carl Venet. Let's confirm then the remainder of the top 10 positions. Tashi from Venet, from Fixture, from Kajaya, from Roberto Colciago, Pepe Oriola, Mato Homola, Ugo Valente, Giacomo Altoe, and last year's driver's runner-up, James Nash from Craft Bamboo Lukoil, 10th, and 1.2 seconds separating those 10 drivers, so a little more spread out than things were in free practice 1, and also as things were probably 2/3 of the way through free practice 2. Gianni Morbidelli, Pierre-Yves Cortals, Stefano Comini, and Dusan Borkovic 14th, Duncan Indy 15th. So let's head down to the pit lane. Let's talk to the man who was quickest in that session. Attila Tashi is with Alfredo.
Attila Tashi, new car, new team, and top of the rank.
Yeah, it's great to be back. The 3 months was too long for me. I can't wait to get back to the car. And it's good because the new team, new car, I really like the car. We are still learning it because this was the second day when I drive it. So we don't have much experience with it, but we're getting used to it.
Thank you.
Short and sweet, thumbs up and a wink from Attila. Thank you, Alfredo. And the car has looked after him well in this session. So Attila heads back for the debrief. Of course, the 2 test sessions, we can learn a little, we can read something into it, but of course the important session is still to come, the 2-part qualifying session, which will decide the grid for both of tomorrow's 2 races. Qualifying 1, everybody in. Qualifying 2 is just the top 12, fastest top 12. And then the race 1 grid will be the result of qualifying, and race 2 will be the reversed grid of the top 10. We'll see you for qualifying later.